Hello and welcome to my new series, The History of Anime. In this 6-episode series I'll be going through the history of anime, documenting the most important and influential events in the development of Japanese animation. In this first episode I'll be looking at where it all began with the early 1900s. This period is far from as glamorous as the decades that follow, but just as important. So where did it all start? Well, it's impossible to say exactly where, as most of the animation from the time was destroyed or lost. In a time where an animation would only have one copy released on film, it's very likely that that would have gotten damaged or lost, although we do have some records of early Japanese animation. We can look back to 1907 as a good starting point with Katsudo Shashin. As of now, this is the earliest piece of animation we have from Japan. It's a 3-second animation where a boy writes something on a wall and then turns to tip his hat. Although technically this is an anime, it's only 3 seconds, but it was a whole decade later in 1917 that we would get a solid piece of Japanese animation with Namakura Katana. It was still a very short animation, but started to show the Japanese style of animating. The animation technique used in these was called cutout animation. This is where animators would cut out objects and move them around. It was much cheaper than the higher quality cell animation other countries were using at the time. In 1923 there was a massive setback for Japanese animation, the Great Kanto Earthquake. This destroyed a lot of the animations at the time and pushed the industry back quite a bit. So as animation was progressing throughout the world with the likes of Disney, Japan felt like they needed to catch up. Many animators started using cell animation. This gave the quality of their animations a massive boost. Works such as Ugohi Kori no Tekahiki and Ari-chan were created and looked much better than the previous cutout animation. Despite this, Japan still weren't on the same level as Disney, and the next few years didn't help at all. With the start of World War II, the majority of Japanese animation ended up being propaganda videos showing the Japanese soldiers fighting Americans. There wasn't really any room to express any artistic value here. Most of these were quite racist and violent, so I wouldn't recommend watching them. But if you do want to see what they're like, you could watch Momotaro no Imiwashi from 1943. But this period wasn't completely absent of progression. Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors was created in 1945, and despite it being more propaganda commissioned by the Navy, it was Japan's first feature-length animated film. So there was a little lull in production for obvious reasons after World War II, but in 1948 a studio called Japanese Animation Studio was founded. They didn't create much under that name, but in 1956 they were bought by Toei, where it was transformed into Toei Animation, an animation studio that is still in business today. This was a massive stepping stone for Japanese animation, as it would kickstart the industry into worldwide competition. The first feature-length colour animation also came 2 years later as Haku Jaden in 1958. This pushed Japanese animation a step closer to the likes of Disney and kickstarted the next decade of anime. So that's all for this period, but join me next episode as I have a look where Japanese animation really got started in the 1960s.